We're here with Timmy Gibson, Kansas City's #1 wedding officiant and relationship coach. So let's get into it. Timmy, welcome.
Hey, good to see you.
Nice to see you again. This is what, our third time?
I think so,
together?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to just kind of dive into some questions around relationships, since that's kind of your background and has been for many years.
Yeah, over 25 years.
Yeah. You know, everyone struggles with relationships. What are some keys to having a successful one?
Yeah, I really believe there's 3 keys to a happy, healthy relationship. I think that oftentimes when we meet someone, we get hot in the pants, you know, we get super excited, we get the tickles in the tummy, and we think that's love. And that's attraction, and that's fine. Chemistry it's fine. And you want to find the person that you marry attractive. You want to find them appealing. But the most important piece, the critical piece is compatibility. And sometimes the compatibility piece, though it's the most important, it becomes the least important because you feel so attracted to someone. You feel such chemistry. Nothing wrong with that, and that can definitely be part of it, especially if you have the compatibility piece. But chemistry, hot in the pants, sexual connection, all of those things will not last. It's fleeting. And so once you have that attraction, that's kind of the first step into the door. Hey, I find them attractive. Well, great. Date them and find out if that attraction can lead to something more than just a hookup.
Sure.
You know, we live in such a hookup culture. And once you hook up, that can create another little bond, a little connection that you feel like there's this physical connection.
The
now.
oxytocin.
Yeah. So you're getting this dopamine drop every time you connect. And again, that's fine. You know, who doesn't love sex? But that's not the key to a long-term, happy, healthy relationship. And so as a relationship coach and a wedding officiant, I mean, I'm dealing with this all the time. Sure. And I love that I get to take people through premarital counseling to talk about these issues and really kind of help them get those first few steps of, hey, listen, obviously you're sitting here because you're attracted to each other. Let's go deeper,
right?
And see how compatible you are or aren't.
Everyone wants a happy relationship. What have you seen as far as mistakes people make?
Yeah, it's the tickles in the tummy. It's that initial attraction that people equate with love. And love is just much deeper than simply feeling that excitement over someone.
So I would think like lust is not the same as love.
No. And lust is fine, right? Like that's a part of a relationship. It's just not the meat of the relationship. You really have to have compatibility. Can we do life together, right? Can we hook up? Yeah, it's fun. But can we do life together? That's what really leads to the long-term, happy, healthy relationship.
What are some things that someone can do to find a happy relationship?
Well, discovering the compatibility piece really is just about dating. You know, you just spend time with someone. I've often said this, if someone's super religious, it's probably important to find someone who's also super religious. That's a compatibility piece. If you find someone who's vegan, probably you should also look for someone who is vegan or a healthy eater, because that, again, is a lifestyle. And if our lifestyles don't match and you're wanting to go to the gym and I'm wanting to sit on the couch and watch TV, that's not compatibility. And so you have to just look at, can we live life together? I say this, it is easy to be in a relationship with the right person. Life is hard, right? There's challenges. And if you have kids, it's difficult, career, finances. Life outside is definitely a challenge. But where the peace should come from is within the relationship. It should be like a safe place. When you come home, that shouldn't be where all the turmoil is, all the anxiety, all the dysfunction. That should be from outside. You know, that's everywhere else. When you come home, that to me would say that's compatible. If they have peace at home and it brings them comfort and they have less anxiety when they're home, to me, that's a good sign that, hey, you're compatible.
A lot of people think that chaos in a relationship is, passion, right?
Yeah, I do not agree with that. The volatility in a relationship, and I've seen it over my 55 years of life, and I've done weddings for couples that were super volatile. And when they're volatile dating, the marriage is more than volatile. It's crazy.
It's like on steroids.
Yes. Yeah. I need to quit saying that. I'm saying it right now. Anything that is a little deal when you're dating is a big deal when you're married. And I don't know why that is specifically, but it is. If something kind of bothers you about someone you're dating, for whatever reason, when you get married, it drives you batty.
That reminds me of something that I heard a long time ago was the things you fall in love with people can tend to be the things that actually drive you crazy. I'll give you an example. Oh, he's so outgoing and amazing. Turns into he's such a flirt.
Right. Exactly. And that's when you're dating someone. And this is where I really, really, really find it helpful to work with singles, because helping them understand, hey, it's great that you've got the tickles in the tummy. It's great that you feel this attraction to someone. That's just the start. Now you've got to do your due diligence of really getting to know this person and finding out if they're a good fit for you. Another piece in the puzzle of dating is recognizing red flags. Too many times I'll hear someone will get divorced or they break up and they say, yeah, I saw it early on, but I just thought everybody drinks. Well, yeah, but they don't hide their liquor all over the house. And, so it's not putting things like that under the rug, being honest with yourself and being okay to be alone. You have to really, the most important piece, even before you meet someone, it's not about finding the right person. It's about being the right person. When you're a whole, happy, well-adjusted person, it helps you make better decisions.
I couldn't agree more. And what I've noticed too is that oftentimes people enter into relationships thinking they can change someone.
You can't change people.
And that's just like a destiny, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's a disaster. It just doesn't work that way.
No.
You need to love and accept the person that you are. Now, that doesn't mean you love and accept despicable behavior,
right? Especially
especially if it wasn't there prior to you getting married.
Yeah.
But
you can't change people, and don't marry projects, And I don't know if that comes from compassion or ignorance. I'm not sure where it comes from, but people do say that often, is that I'm going to help her, or I'm going to help him. And I just love them so much. If they didn't do this, they'd be such a great person. And that's true, maybe, but people rarely change. I believe they can grow, and people have changed, but I have friends that for the last 40 years ago, they would be in and out of jobs all the time. And here we are 40 years later, and they are in and out of jobs. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I believe people can change, or they can grow for sure. We have proof of that, but it's not super common,
Well, and there's, I think, a difference between influencing your partner,
which is good.
I start exercising and then you see that and you kind of want that, and then having this expectation that they change.
Yeah. Relationships are definitely an as is.
Yeah.
If you love everything about someone and you wouldn't want to change one single thing about them, that's a keeper.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes through the process of even marriage, you start noticing things you want to change. And you have to look back. What did I marry this person for? What did I find attractive about them? And really focus on that. Now, I'm not saying you bury your head in the sand and don't acknowledge a problem that needs to be addressed, but focus on the good, work on the good, and that's what you'll see and experience most of the time.
Well, and relationships, they shouldn't be hard, but they do take work. I think of like a car. You don't buy a car and never get the oil changed or the tires rotated. You have to maintain it.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the same in my relationship with my husband. We're constantly leveling up, and it's beautiful. It's why it works so well.
Yeah. Well, typically, even like when you're talking about the car maintenance, how many times do we wait until there's a problem before we ever take it in? And so I feel like a relationship's the same thing. It's something that needs to be maintained. It needs to be an intentional part of your life to work on the relationship. I often given the analogy that a relationship is like a lawn. When they first lay down the sod, it looks so beautiful. It's just awesome, right? And you have to feed it, weed it, aerate it, pick the weeds. You have to do that. And you can skip that stuff here and there. But you skip it for a while and your lawn starts looking like crap. It reflects the lack of care. I believe relationships also can reflect the lack of care or reflect the love and care and the effort that you put into it, just like a lawn.
You mentioned compatibility being a key to a successful relationship. How do you determine that?
It comes down to spending time with someone and doing life together, but also knowing yourself. When you know yourself, you know how you live, you know how you spend money, you know how you do life, and being able to experience that life with someone else and knowing, hey, what's really important to me should be really important to the person that I spend my life with. So if I'm super religious, then it would behoove me to find someone who shares a strong passion for religion. Doesn't have to be the same religion, but it needs to be some shared, I'm spiritual, I'm religious, you're spiritual, you're religious, and that's compatible. We think that love is something you always feel. It's not always about feelings. You can feel love towards any number of people walking around. You can just be at the mall and someone can walk by and they're physically appealing and I think I love them, and that's great. Again, that's an important little piece, but it's got to go deeper into compatibility. I also think it's important that, like if you're a rock climber, then it would be okay and probably even helpful to find someone who enjoys that sport as well. If you play tennis, that's another. Do we play tennis together? And it's really more about activity. Are you super active? Great. It'd be important to be with someone who's also active.
Well, you mentioned compatibility being super important in a relationship. How do you determine that?
It's the big things of life. If you're super religious, it's important to find someone who's religious. If you're super active, it's important to find someone who's active. If you're a spender financially, then maybe you should actually be with someone who's a saver. There can be a balancing act too. It doesn't mean that everything about you needs to be the same as your partner. You can benefit from your partner's differences, but when it comes to lifestyle, can we do life together? Can we get along? Because listen, we don't have sex 24 hours a day. I mean, I know most guys maybe would want to, but that's just not real, right? That happens maybe 2 or 3 minutes out of a day. But what really matters is everyday life. What are your hobbies? Do you like to travel? I recently met with a couple. He's afraid of flying, has never flown, never wants to ever fly, and she wants to travel the world. And I'm thinking, guys, this is a big deal. Yeah. Because this is a big difference that will really impact the relationship. I mean, how can you travel the world if he doesn't want to fly?
And I think of like somebody that's really social versus somebody that's not. Maybe you're a reader and I want to watch TV all the time.
Yeah.
Those can definitely impact your compatibility.
Yeah, they can also be workable. If I'm outgoing, if my partner's introverted, like we can make that work because I don't have to have my partner share that personality trait with me. But if they want to always go out and party and I'm always wanting to be home watching Netflix, that is incompatible. That's not going to work well. But whether you're outgoing or more reserved, I think that can work.
How important do you think the 5 languages of love are to a healthy relationship?
Yeah, it's the first class that I teach for my premarital. Because if I don't know my partner's love language, typically you speak whatever the love language you have. So it'd be like if I spoke Chinese and you spoke English and we were in partnership. Well, I'm speaking to you in Chinese and you're like, I don't speak Chinese. I don't know what you're saying. And then you're responding to me in English. And I'm like, I only speak Chinese. I don't know what you're saying. To me, love language is a lot like that. If I am physical touch and words of affirmation, that means tell me I'm pretty and touch me. And that makes me feel loved. Too many times couples will be together and they're spending time together, they're doing things together, and they'll say, I just don't feel the love. I don't feel loved. And I always go into the love language. Let's talk about how you're communicating love. So if yours is words of affirmation and physical touch, and I'm doing acts of service, I'm cleaning the kitchen for you. Well, you appreciate it. Of course, you appreciate that I'm doing work in the kitchen, but that's not your love language. Mm-hmm. You want to be touched and told how pretty you are. Do you see that? You see how you can be showing love, but it's not the right language that your partner translates as love.
If my husband's bringing me flowers every day and I want him to mow the lawn instead, one is gift giving and one's acts of service.
Right. That's exactly what it is. It's because, again, you typically speak from the love language that you want. So if mine is physical touch, that means I'm going to be touching you all the time because that's how I want to be loved. But if yours is acts of service, then touching you isn't going to make you feel loved. It's mowing the lawn or doing the dishes. And it's just such a simple thing. You feel like you're with your soulmate if they have the same love language as you, because it's like mine's physical touch. So as I touch you, you feel loved. You touch me, I feel loved. And we're like, oh my gosh, we're like soulmates. Yeah, because we're speaking the same love language and it just makes you feel so loved. That's where that I don't believe in soulmates, but I believe you can become soulmates. And that is what makes you feel that feeling of I have found my person. And it's often just simply you're speaking the same love language. And I'm sure there's other things too, but that's a big piece.
So what is a solution if, let's say, my love language is physical touch and my husband's is acts of service? How do you navigate that?
It's, again, being very intentional. If I know that yours is acts of service, then I just make sure to do things that are acts of service that will make you and show you love. It's something, there's a test out there. You can take it and kind of find out what your own love language is. But really, it's okay to know your own love language, but it's more important to know your partner's love language. Like, what you like gifts, then I need to remember that. I need to remember she likes gifts. So yeah, tell her she's beautiful, touch her, all that's fine, but make sure you're doing gifts because that's what really touches her soul.
And I like that because it is intentional and it may feel foreign and awkward and like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but it's what you do for your partner, and then by doing that, gosh, it's reciprocity, you get that back. I wonder for me, like, have mine changed? Because they used to, it's never been physical touch, I'll tell you that. But
to the chagrin of your husband, right?
We definitely both love quality time. That's something that we love to do together, and words of affirmation. But lately, I found that I love to give gifts to people, especially not necessarily intimate partners, but I'm kind of a gift giver. Yeah. And I'm kind of an acts of service person. I'm always doing that, but I don't necessarily expect or want that in return. So I feel like I'm a little bit of an anomaly.
Yeah, and you can change. It's very sacrificial. And to me, it really represents love because it's selfless. It's like, hey, I want to do physical touch because that's my love language and that's what I want. But when you really want to learn your partner and say, you know what really means a lot to her is gifts. And so I'm going to get her a gift. That, to me, that just expresses so much love because it takes effort, it's sacrificial, and it's important. It's important to know your partner's love language.
Well, and love really is a verb. It takes a lot of action behind it. Anybody can say they're in love.
Absolutely, yeah.
But like doing the work to like sustain that and keep it is
Yeah.
a totally different situation.
Yeah, it's easy to do, it's easy not to do. You know, it's going on dates, it's so easy to do, but it's easy not to do. And sometimes I'll tell clients, listen, put it in your calendar.
Yeah.
Just put it in your calendar. Set aside a date night and do that, because it'll mean a lot to your partner that you're planning ahead, you're thinking about them. It's what we did when we first met.
Right.
That's all you did was date.
When you sent your best representative.
That's right.
Then
That's
the
right.
real you comes out. Everyone struggles in relationships. What's some advice you would give to someone who's having a hard time?
Yeah, there's three main areas that people struggle. It's sex, children, and money. Those really can throw a strain into the relationship. You bring a kid into the relationship, and now we went from focusing only on each other, and now we're both focusing on a child. The other big challenge is money. And if you're having financial struggles, now you're not focusing again on your partner, you're focusing on all the struggles and the hardships that we're having financially. And then the other one, what did I say it was?
Yeah.
Sex is, though it's not the most important piece, it is a very important piece. And think about it. Anytime you have sex, it's just like everything's right in the world. You know, it's like as soon as it's over, you're just like, wow, I'm so happy right now. I mean, it just changes everything. And it's such a good thing. But I've dealt with couples that they'll go months.
Oh, wow.
Months and months. And I'm like, you know what? Even if you don't feel like it, just do it. Trust me. If you don't feel like it, things will happen. It'll happen. Just start touching each other. It'll happen. Yeah. And you don't have to feel like it. You'll start feeling like it. It's such a small little piece of a relationship, really, right? Friendship is huge. Compatibility, all these things. Sex, though it's a small piece, it plays such a huge role in the relationship. Sex is another very important piece to a relationship. Though it's such a little piece, you know, it takes 2 to 3 minutes to have that happen, but it plays a huge role in the relationship.
You know, it's interesting. I heard that many years ago. I think it was from Dr. Phil.
Old Dr. Phil.
It really said, you know, it's when it's working and it's all parties are getting what their needs met, it counts for a very small percentage. But when one party is not getting their needs met, it's like 95% of your relationship.
It's everything.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah. I think about money and like someone overspending and like the family is in debt and the other person just can't stop spending, and how that can create such a conflict between the two people.
Yeah, it really is a big challenge because it's everything that life is, right? It's how you buy your house, your car, your life, your food. I mean, it's so important. And when the struggles come in, it's the pressure. It's the pressure that it's putting on the relationship.
Awesome.
And then children.
And
I think about children. I think back to my family, my parents. You know, they got divorced because my mom was so focused on us small children. And my dad was not getting his needs met. He was not the number one in the relationship. And I remember him saying something biblically referenced, like, always make the marriage the centerpiece, and then everything else falls into place. Easier said than done when, you don't have a screaming infant that's keeping you up all night.
Right. Yeah. Kids are such a blessing on one hand, but also such a challenge to overcome for the couple, because the couple should be the primary focus, is you and your partner. That's the primary focus. But how do you do that when a child comes in to the picture that can't do anything on their own? You have to do everything for them. Yeah. And so what happens is couples will turn away from each other and focus on the child and think that they're doing a good thing and they're being good parents. And they are-ish, but the best thing you can do for your children is to have a great relationship.
How can we go from this like fire and connection and then boom, it falls apart? What are a couple ways that you can protect your relationship?
One of the challenges of any relationship is two humans growing together through time. And this goes back to the compatibility piece. If you marry someone if you were both heavy drinkers and you went out a lot, well, then if one partner decides to change their life and not drink anymore, and the other one continues to drink, now they're incompatible. And that's how you can go from fire to what do we do now?
Fury.
Yeah, to fury. Really, it's because someone has changed drastically in the relationship and the other person has stayed the same. It'd be like if being with someone who's super athletic and outgoing and works out and eats right and and then 5 years down the road, they're just not interested in doing that anymore. Well, what's the other person supposed to do?
Right.
We connected over this fitness health thing, and now you've left that world. I've seen that religiously. I've seen that where people met in church when they were, Bible believing, Christians, and then one is not a Christian anymore. Well, then the Christian person is like, they changed. They're not the same person they were when I married them.
Right.
So the challenge for that the fix for that is counseling. Honestly, you just need to get yourself into counseling and see if it can be salvaged, and hopefully it can.
Typically in dating, people put on their best face, like in everything, and sometimes mislead in what kind of human being they are, the things that they like to do. We call it like chameleon.
Yeah.
Like whatever you like, I like.
Right.
All of a sudden I'm now a golfer or whatever.
What do you want me to be? I'll be that.
Yeah.
There's usually clues. Anybody I've ever talked to, they always look back and they say there were clues that they weren't quite what they said. A good thing to look at is their friends, their circle of influence, their jobs, their family. Usually there's some sign that is not lining up with what they're projecting to you. And you just have to be intuitive or at least honest with yourself and not let that slip through.
Yeah, you can't bury your head in the sand because things are so fiery and hot and you're so connected. And then you're seeing these little clues along the way. And it's like,
And that's when it happens. Relationships that start super fast and just go to the moon. The sex is the best it's ever been. The attraction is literally off the charts. To me, that makes me a little leery. Like, okay, that's great. Just calm the horses,
right.
And don't let the tickles in your tummy blind you to what's really in front of you.
Yeah.
You have to be honest with yourself and not be blinded by all the feels.
There are people who get these like tingly, oh my God, everything's so amazing. And then they ignore the signs right in front of them because they're looking for this fairy tale.
Yeah, it's very common. You become blinded by whether it's their beauty or their money or the sex. And those things are fine. But don't let those things blind you to what's really in front of you.
They don't sustain a relationship.
No.
They can definitely pull you into one, but sustaining is a whole nother situation.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Everybody gets divorced. Rich people, beautiful people. I mean, look at famous people.
Right.
They have everything. They have fame, fortune, money. They have all this stuff, and they have 20 marriages.
Right.
So that's clearly not the ticket.
This is totally off relationships, but I've really been asking all of my guests how they deal with their inner critic. That's our first episode, is all about conquering that inner critic or quieting it. Do you have any tools that you use?
Goodness, I am big on subliminal things. And so when I sleep at night, I'm playing some kind of a audio that tells me how amazing I am all through the night. And I'll even do that in the morning when I first wake up. I'll play a little positive affirmation stuff. That's how I personally deal with it. I mean, everybody has critical things to say about themselves. I am like anybody else, but I try to just ignore those voices and just live in the moment. Probably one of the best books I ever read was Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. You know, the past is completely gone. I can't change that. The future is completely uncertain and unknown. All I have is like right now in this moment. So I've never been a real big believer in having guilt and shame and regret. It's like, well, okay, I do want to learn from my mistakes or learn from my past for sure. But why feel bad about it? It's done. It's over with. I don't want to bring it into the present. So I try to just live by that principle from that book, and it's been so helpful. Just live present, live right now, in the moment, and do your best, you know.
Yeah, you know, I think you might be the first person that's used this subliminal messaging to help quiet their inner critic. I'm going to take that and go try it.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. I did it for 3 years, every night without fail. Did not miss a single night. And it impacted me in such a great way. I can't even tell you.
Well, I really wanted to thank you, Timmy, for all this amazing insight into relationships, how to sustain them, things to look for. It's been a real honor.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.